Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Slow Secrets. And today I have Tara and Dion. I think the most beautiful tantric couple that I have met in my life anyway. And I joined one of your Fundamentals of Tantra seminars in Bali. And it blew my mind because it's everything I write in my first book. And yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to join our Slow Secrets podcast episodes.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So the first question I have is, as a couple and also while facilitating this beautiful workshop with couples, what is your view on Tantra in, for example, long-term couples that maybe have lost that intimacy spark? Because let's face it, it's kind of the last thing on our to-do list, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the primary reason why people come to learn Tantra, for especially couples in relationships, is that chemistry that's there in the honeymoon period. Once the honeymoon period's over, then that chemistry is a lot harder to maintain. But the beauty and epicness of Tantra is actually chemistry grows month after month, year after year. And that's certainly been our experience. We continue to have our minds blown by the places that our lovemaking goes to. So what for me, I love so much about Tantra and working with couples is it gives them this fresh experience of what relationships and intimacy can be like, that completely shifts this belief that chemistry has to die in long-term relationships. It's bullshit. It's just simply not true. It's just that we're not taught how to keep that alive in relationships. And the key here is polarity. So, you know, after a while, we can just become best friends and buddies is usually like the good teammate thing. And then not as much emphasis is put on like the romance and the attraction and the sexiness that we put effort in the beginning of relationships. And so Tantra has some beautiful like teachings on that, of how to do that both outside the bedroom and inside the bedroom, because the two are completely correlated, what happens outside of the bedroom. And couples tend to go, oh, we've just got to work inside the bedroom, but it is equally, if not more, outside the bedroom.
Oh, beautiful. So you mentioned polarities. I think many people actually don't know about Tantra and the polarities. So maybe you could explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we first come into a relationship, often the woman's in her feminine and she's feeling like sexy and putting in effort for that feminine aliveness and radiance, that like Shakti energy that they refer to in Hinduism. And then the man's like really strong and grounded and claiming his woman, and he has that presence and stillness. And he's holding that masculine, more Shiva energy, as they refer to in Hinduism. And this is the lineage of Tantra, is the dance between Shiva and Shakti. But what happens through time is usually both people end up in their masculine, right? Because our world is completely dominated by this masculine approach to life. So there becomes a lot of like mind conversation that happens, a lot of like planning, talking about the kids, talking about our work, and more focused on doing rather than being.
Yes, and feeling.
And feeling, and experiencing. So the journey into polarity is really the masculine, the man in the relationship, really owning his masculine needs and what they are, for spaciousness, for purpose, for brotherhood, for stillness, for silence. And when he does that and honors that, he's filling his cup in his masculine energy, and he feels like a man. And then the same side for the woman, but opposite, is she is feeling more rather than thinking more. And she's taking time again to like be with her sisters and follow her joy, and putting in effort to really embody that female radiance. So rather than going into the tracksuit phase of relationships where it becomes comfortable and you're just like in your trackies and not putting in as much effort, it's like for the feminine, it's to keep that aliveness and that sensuality, which is our gift and our magnetism and how we attract the masculine to us, alive in the relationship. And the beauty of that is that it's the best inspiration for a man to keep showing up and to keep claiming his woman and to keep putting in effort is through our feminine aliveness and radiance and sensuality. And it benefits us because then it's getting out of our head and into our feeling body.
I think you touched on, Tara, just the importance of also spending, like for me, spending time with other men, and for Tara with women, to inspire and cultivate those energies.
Yes.
But that it's also important, like, I mean, the sort of cliche mainstream thing would be I would go to the pub and drink with men or watch sports, and she would go to the hairdresser and complain about her man. But with the women, just so important to also attract and find people who are on a similar vibration in growing ourselves and our energies. I just got back from a week-long men's retreat that I assisted on, which has brought me like way even more deeper into my own masculine energy and power. And now the last week we've had together has just gone to a whole other level of relating. That's a really important well to get the support of the community also.
And one other key point about polarity is both people getting a life outside of the relationship. And I actually failed at this in previous relationships. Dion will say the same thing. And so many couples who are in that codependent relationship, they make their partner the source of everything, their joy, their happiness, their pleasure, their safety, their purpose, like everything. And it's impossible to do that. It's suffocating. But no wonder we don't feel like fucking each other, because we're constantly just be happy. If you don't do that, then I'm going to be resentful and withdraw.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and we've both been there too in the past with relationships also, when you work together and you spend so much time in the work environment and then the evenings become work and stuff. I've been there as well. I've had a long-term relationship where we didn't make love for 2 or 3 years or something. There is that part of really making it a priority, which, as Tara said, doesn't mean like, okay, we set like an hour and we have sex in this hour. We do set, like last night I set a date for this morning to like just be in connection together. We actually didn't need it, just by doing that we made love last night and this morning anyway. But really making it a priority. And as Tara said also, the moments during the day, putting into the relationship. So me like complimenting her, or just little bits of sensual, like I come into her office sometimes and just little bits of sensual touch just for a few seconds, and just inspiring that. It really needs something that you keep building the fire, keep stoking the fire throughout the day.
Yes, there are so many different languages of love and intimacy. Touch is definitely one of my favorites. So how did you guys end up in Tantra? Like, what's your story?
So I spent 10 years on and off in India, wanting to know truth, trying to find truth. And it was like half of the picture for me, because it didn't go into the emotional body or the sexual body, but it gave me the beautiful gift of devotion and bhakti and meditation and service. And it ignited my service being of wanting to help humanity. And then I did that for 10 years in a marriage. The marriage ended and I just turned my back on spirituality altogether. The pendulum swung the other way, and I lived my 20s in my 30s and did a lot of partying and playing. And then I got really bored with that And then as soon as my being went, okay, I want something more, then in step Tantra with Chantel Raven, who's the founder of the Embodied Awakening Academy that I work for and run with her. So as soon as I sat in circle with her for the first time, and she just started talking about Tantra, my whole being just remembered. And it just resonated as truth to me. And there wasn't anything that I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. I was like, this makes so much sense. Why
did I hear this before?
And that's when I think you know if it's the right path for you, and your body's like, oh, yeah, that really resonates with me. And then I just threw myself into it because I'd been searching for 15 years at that stage. So I attended every retreat, every workshop, and then I ended up hosting events because I wanted her to teach more. I wanted to learn about the archetypes, and she was like, sure, I'll teach that if you want to host. And then eventually I left my job. I was a marine ecologist for 17 years, and I just closed that chapter and just took that leap off the cliff that I'd been wanting to take my whole life to do this type of work and make it my living. But it took that almost facing fear of death, because that's what it felt like, to leave my cushy, very well-paid job, with a mortgage, just to go, actually, this is what my soul wants to do. And that's what I've been doing for 7 years now. And then one of our biggest offerings is the Living Tantra Retreat, which is an 8-day retreat that goes through every chakra. So it's how to experience Tantra at every level of the human experience, not just the sexual and emotional body, but the core is actually creating safety for ourselves, how to then ignite our power. And then, of course, relationships with ourselves and others, our purpose and communication, and then going into the more mystical realms of intuition and essentially how to be awake in the dream of this life. And that's where we actually met.
Yeah, I was always curious about Tantra, but didn't really understand it. I'd already done a lot of yoga and self-work and stuff. I had hesitation the first retreat I came to, because I kind of assumed it might be kind of a all-in orgy and all this kind of stuff that you might be not sure of. And actually, I went there with my now ex-partner. She kind of dragged me along, not fully, but it was like, I'm doing this, and so I did it like for the relationship, which obviously in the end didn't work out, but which opened the door for this. And just the integrity of the work, the Embodied Awakening Academy is just super beautiful and super clear, and it's been a completely life-changing journey since.
And then the beauty was that when we both had separated from our relationships and there was no attraction or chemistry there, when at the first Living Tantra retreat, just a beautiful friendship and actually musical collaboration. Then when we did the second Living Tantra retreat, we were like, you are an amazing drummer and musician, we need you, come support. And then I think day 2, we're just like, there's no genital touch, there's no nudity at our retreats, but there's a lot of energetic exchange of energy as initiation path. And when our energies came together, we were like, what is that? And that opened up an exploration for both of us. But we took it very slowly, because we were both had long-term relationships and wanted to create those foundations, which was beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, all of this really speaks to me. Something that also came up for me during your workshop is just reconnecting with the purest form of intimacy, which is ultimately with yourself first. And as I express it in my book, I say relationships is like, I'm a hooper, right? I love hooping. So you have your hoop, your partner has a hoop, and you spin separately and you create a beautiful story separately, but then you come together as a couple in unity and you create something together, but you also come back to yourselves. So I feel super aligned with everything that you are sharing with me. Thank you so much for doing that. So I'm going to read some notes from the workshop because you said something that just went straight to my heart. And I love it. So you said there is always going to be pain and there is always going to be pleasure. The degree to which you feel your pain is the degree to which you feel your pleasure.
Yeah, so people always get a bit shocked, like, really? I have to feel my pain to feel my pleasure? But the essence of that is they're two sides of the same coin. It's all emotion and experience that we're feeling and sensation from moment to moment. And the reason that the degree to which you feel your pain is the degree to which you can feel your pleasure is because the majority of our blockages to feeling pleasure is actually because we have trapped emotion in our nervous system based on past experiences, based on past trauma, and based on our upbringing, that it's kind of like a river, like we're a river of energy up that central channel of our spine. And any past pain or hurts or traumas stay stuck in that river like boulders. And all they need is our presence and our love and attention, without judgment, without trying to fix them, without trying to shift them or transform them, but just to let them be seen, felt, and heard. And that's essentially what feeling your pain is. And it takes training to get used to that, because our society is completely opposite to that. It's avoid, distract. I was the biggest distractor and avoider before Tantra, and it took me years. I was like addicted to alcohol, addicted to painkillers, was on and off antidepressants. And it was the same practice again and again. Just be with your pain, feel your pain. And when that part of us that hasn't felt safe to express gives expression in all of its rawness, whether it's like anger and rage or grief or our inner victim, whatever it is, it just needs to be seen, felt, and heard. And in doing so, it frees those blockages from our body. And guess what? Life force energy, which is sexual energy, it's the energy that creates life on the planet and is responsible for each of our existence, starts moving more freely through the body. And so then we're more open to feeling pleasure because we're able to be with sensation and experience.
Yeah, beautiful. I loved how.
And I think,
yeah, please.
I think just where that fits in a healthy relationship as well is taking if you are able to not distract all the time and go into your pain and anger and these different emotions, being able to take self-responsibility for that. So rather than projecting that on your partner, like you're making me feel this, putting my anger this way, I can actually put it on a pillow or put it into exercise. I can still ask for, doesn't mean I do everything by myself and hold everything in. I can still ask for support and feedback, but also really taking self-responsibility for emotions. That's been really the big thing that I've appreciated in Tara so much in this relationship, that she doesn't project and throw stuff on me. She'll stick to a daily practice where she does things or say just like, hey, I just need a little bit of space to process this, and then we can communicate in a healthy way rather than a charged way.
And it's the hula hoop example that you were saying as well, and that's how you become two sovereign beings who both have your own lives and are self-responsible, is by whatever the trigger is in relationship, taking it to your mat and giving it full expression.
Yes.
So I'll pummel pillows and like, oh, I hate you, or I'll cry with my broken heart. It's not fair. You didn't give me enough kisses today. And just let that energy run. And by doing so, I come back to my center and I can be clear, because it's 80% also due to our past. And usually we have either an abandonment wound from a parent who was absent or physically absent or emotionally absent, or an enmeshment wound where we had a parent who was like overbearing and just like in our face and in our stuff and emotionally entangled. So if we can process those triggers within our own being and take self-responsibility, like Dion was saying, then relationships stop being this form of therapy where essentially our wounding is going back and forward, which doesn't make you want to make love to your partner if you're just constantly in battle, rather than both going, okay, I'm going to do the inner work, I'm going to feel my pain and see what's beneath that, and then free that pain from my body.
Absolutely.
So that's how whole beings come together.
Absolutely. And there's something I use a lot in my life now. So, small story. I moved here 12 years ago. Then my brother followed 6 years ago. And both my parents followed 2 years ago. So now they all live in my garden. So all these triggers, right, that are obviously in some way I flew away from to the other side of the world are all coming back up now. And I really love the way you said, when you feel these triggers coming up and you feel you're in reaction, just say, we're going to take a pause and we're going to, think about it. And then we can talk about it again tomorrow when we're not in reaction and we've had time to process each on our end, and we can communicate constructively about it together. So even in a family situation, like with my father, for example, who I'm super similar to, of course, but we obviously trigger each other. It has helped me and it has helped us. And yeah, it's so simple when you feel it coming up to say, let's just do a pause and come back to it when we are ready to.
Yeah. So for any couples listening to this, if there was one thing that they take away from this, it would be that when you're in conflict with your couple, with your partner, and you feel that energy bubbling up and you want to point the finger, is to just say, pause, I'm feeling triggered right now. I just need to go and express, right? On my own. And then do it. Let that energy out. Punch those pillows. Cry. Do that. And then underneath any trigger is always a need. Always a need. So just feel what that need is. And when you come back to your partner and you're communicating from your vulnerability, which is where you will be if you've released your emotional body, rather than your demands, then your partner's going to hear you if they're a decent person. Because when you feel your beloved's vulnerability and going, hey, I feel sad, I need more quality time with you, and that would really make me feel loved and special. That's very different from, you never spend time with me, you're always working, I just feel like I'm not even important in your life. The
way we speak to each other is so important. So much beautiful stuff is lost because of bad communication.
And the seed of bad communication is because people aren't taking self-responsibility and moving their emotional body. So by fighting and pointing the finger at the other person, what they're doing is avoiding feeling their pain. It's just an avoidance strategy. Just like alcohol, just like Netflix, just like social media, fighting with your partner and making them the perpetrator and yourself the victim is another avoidance strategy, rather than just feeling the pain of that and then communicating a healthy request. And that's the work outside of the bedroom to increase chemistry and polarity.
Beautiful. So simple.
So simple, and yet against everything we've ever been taught by our parents, teachers, and society.
And it's a lifelong practice that takes time too. Like we're not perfect in it every time. We're still always still working on it. It's it's something that doesn't end.
Yeah,
absolutely. So for the people that are listening, if they wanted to improvise a tantric date with their partner, what would you suggest?
So the first part is actually creating sacred space. So where Tantra differs from mainstream sex is that it's slowing everything down and it's bringing in the mystery. And so a lot of couples that I work with, they're just used to the romantic robotics formula from A to Z. right? I touch him this way, she touches me that way, we get wet, he gets hard, we insert, we maybe have a genital sneeze, and then, you know, we'll cuddle for a bit afterwards. And it gets boring.
15 minutes.
Because, you know,
start to finish.
Yeah. Mine starts to go to, I've got to do this after we finish and that after we finish. So with Tantra, you're entering in the mystery. And to do that, you need to create a space that invokes that. So candles are great. Music is great. And the first thing that we love to do and that we love to help, I guess, train couples in is just to sit in front of each other and to look in each other's eyes and to be with the uncomfortability of whatever comes up, but to see beyond the personality into the soul through eyes, the gateway into the soul. And then you can breathe together, you can start moving energy together, and it's really just this slowing down of what we're used to doing. And then giving each other a massage is beautiful. So the woman can give first, and starting from the feet, all parts of the body touching, including the genitals eventually, because what we're doing is we're sensitizing the entire body to pleasure rather than focusing just on the genitals. And what that means is we hear, you know, different Tantra philosophies talking about full-bodied orgasms. All that means is that rather than it just being focused, localized in the genitals, we're breathing energy up to all the other energy channels, the chakras, the nadis that are alive in our body, so that those energy pathways can have pleasure run through them. So tantric massage is a really important practice to do, so that the body is getting awakened and enlivened all throughout the body. And then during lovemaking, making sure that you're still touching the whole body as well. So sacred space, spending time massaging each other where the focus is off penetration, the focus is off the genitals, and it's about bringing sensual, loving touch to the whole body. And then you can bring in that like devotional love, adoration, sensuality into the genitals, but having at least 20 minutes of touch that doesn't involve penetration. And scientifically speaking, women need 20 minutes for their yonis, for their vaginas, for their pussies, whatever you want to call it, to open, right? So it's giving that time, and it's in men's best interest, because when a woman is fully open because her heart's been opened and her whole body's being opened, and the places that you can go in lovemaking and are extraordinary, and all colors of the rainbow. And with Tantra, what we want to do is to express our wholeness through lovemaking. Yeah. So that means we have these sweet, tender moments of like so slow, sensual lovemaking. It also means that there's this like caring holding of this like almost erotic mother and father energy where there's such safety. It also involves the wild woman and the wild man who are just like almost in chaotic sexual rapture with each other and want to devour each other. And then there's also that primal energy where you just get bent over and fucked to God. Yes. And then the mystical realms as well, where you're moving energy through your whole body and connecting to spirit, connecting to each other's hearts, and connecting at the animals. So the possibilities are endless. Yes. And yes, techniques to facilitate that, but essentially it's just slowing things down, getting out of the mind into the body through breath, sound, and movement. So make noise, and whatever it is that you're feeling, give that sound. And that's how you get into the body. And then suddenly you'll find yourself like moving in a different position that you've never tried before. So be curious and explorative. And it's like trying anything for the first time. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but try it out. It's an exploration that there's infinite possibilities.
Fantastic. Beautiful.
I would say also just on exploring these different energies and archetypes, I think there can be a tendency in long-term relationships where you're just used to one kind of energy, and then we all start actually looking outside of the relationship, like, oh, what would it be like to be this person? Or then someone, you know, cheats on someone to be with someone else because you're looking for these different types. But in our connection, like when we just start with connection, and then I don't know which woman is going to show up. It's almost like being with like 5 archetypes, and sometimes in an hour they all come through at some point. There's many different parts of our own selves that in this space we can explore.
And the way that you access those different parts of yourself is by being in your body and feeling into what your needs are. And so for women, it's often to say to men, hey, I need you to slow down a bit. Can we like go a bit softer? And when you follow what's good for your body and what feels good for you, then the yoni opens more and more, and greater pleasure comes through, which then opens access points to different energies. But a huge part of relationships, and actually people in long-term relationships, they've never communicated what their needs are in the bedroom, you know, and I was the same in my past relationships, and it's still scary for me. It's still a bit edgy because it's like, what happens if you then love them? Right? But it's also being okay that maybe there's going to be a recalibration period. But the more honest communication we can have, which isn't shaming or blaming, but just talk about what we do want, then the more helping each other evolve into these sexual masters where the growth is endless.
Beautiful.
Quick practical date tip.
Yes.
We do like through the day, we do with our busy schedules, like we do actually schedule in like connection time. We kind of look at our days and you're doing this and this meeting, and we do put in like, okay, we've only got half an hour there, but that'll be our connection time. There's no expectation of what it's going to be, but it's like phones off. We're just like have pure presence with each other. The other thing, like we do also go on dates, like we're in Bali, we eat out at nice places a lot. Like last night, I think in my past anyway, you go out on a date and you want to make it extravagant and, you know, go somewhere nice and like eat lots of food and have dessert, but then you go home and you've eaten so much and, you know, exhaust so much that you just want to, your body is tired and you want to go to sleep. So something the last few dates that we went on, I was like, okay, let's go to a not the pizza or pasta place where we're going to be heavy after. Let's be a little more attuned to what we're eating to look after our bodies so that we are feeling inspired and energized. I think that's also useful.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast, and I think that's it for me. I don't have any more questions. Would you like to add something for our listeners?
Just love each other.
Yes, amen to that.
You know, like take everything so personally in relationships, and I get it. It's like it's a deep conditioning that we take it personally. But if we can be less selfish, of like, I'm not getting this email, oh, he didn't do that, or she didn't do that, and really feel the love that's there. Hopefully, if you're with a partner, then there's genuine love there. And the more that we can love each other and build each other up, relationships are like a bank account. They need input. They need money for it to grow. And we just assume that relationships do it themselves, but it takes
nurturing
energy. It takes nurturing. So for men, they need to feel trusted and they need to feel appreciated. For women, we need to feel loved and we need to feel adored.
Yes.
And so you can both just try and bring that in, and when they're going through something and maybe a bit withdrawn, or the woman's emotional, maybe a bit chaotic, can we just hold presence for that and just choose to keep loving each other rather than trying to pull each other down? And inspire. Inspire each other with our love, with our joy, with our desire.
I think that really flipped the tantric life too. Like, it's amazing if you're in a partnership where you're both doing this kind of work and studying and learning, or doing courses and retreats, But the other way to do it is if you can embody some of these qualities in yourself, and if that's with your partner, or even before we spoke about parents and things like that, like we don't have to, if we get some of this knowledge, it's not so helpful, I think, to be trying to teach the person or still point the finger or say like, I'm doing this and you're still not tantric or you're still not this. But if we are just doing it ourselves, the people around us are just naturally inspired to learn by transmission and stepping up, and I would say that's exactly right for us as well.
Yeah, and often it is the woman who's inspiring, because we're more naturally kind of inclined to spiritual and emotional things. And so that I really believe that that's part of the role almost of being a woman, is to be the initiator as well, and to lead by example. And our actions speak 1,000 times more than our words and nagging ever will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Vulnerability is sexy.
Yeah. Feeling is sexy.
Great. Fantastic. So if they want to connect with you and they want to explore more because they felt very inspired by our episode, where can they find you?
So the Embodied Awakening Academy website, which is embodiedawakeningacademy.com. There's also the Embodied Awakening Academy Insta. And then my personal Insta is Tara Meegan, with a double E in Meegan.
Yeah.
And we post all of our events there. So
Great.
And we're in Bali for the next year or so at least, running retreats, and also when you spoke about date nights, we run evening events where there's music and singing and connection practices.
It's amazing music. I love it so much. Like the SoundCloud, I listen to it a lot and it's really nice. Everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I send you so much love from the island.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to see your beautiful face.
Same. Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye.
Slow secrets.